What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the South Asian Men's Space podcast. And today I'm joined by Lakshay and Naidu, who's going to be talking about his journey through fitness from being 130 kg overweight to losing all that fat and gaining muscle as a vegan athlete, and also his journey through body dysmorphia and dance. So make sure you stick around, have a listen, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're watching on Spotify, like the video and share it with anyone who you think will benefit from it. I'll see you in the next episode. And like I said, if you have enjoyed the episode, make sure you also check out Lakshay's content on Instagram and YouTube. I'll post his links down below, but he's got some great content and he's a great guy. So make sure you check his stuff out as well. Thank you. Sweet. Actually, thanks for joining me on the podcast. So normally we start with a check-in. So a check-in is essentially just checking in with how you're doing, your feelings, anything that's coming up for you at this right moment. So we'll both go through it. I'll start and then you can go after me. Is that okay?
Sure, bro. Sounds good.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I think at the moment things are good. I've restarted kind of my training and health stuff as well. So feeling good, feeling really pumped. And yeah, just actually really feeling good in that sense. And in terms of the podcast, YouTube stuff I've been doing, things are growing, and yeah, I'm kind of I am. I can say I'm proud of myself at this moment, just like carrying through with everything. So at this right moment, I would say, in that sense, I'm very good. Um, Probably looking forward to a holiday, so I've got something booked early May.
Nice.
So I think that's probably something I'm looking forward to and looking to unwind. But otherwise, yeah, things are going well and just trying to be patient and execute daily as opposed to kind of rushing through things, because normally I would find myself like impatient for the end result, and then I would kind of sabotage myself or just give up, or I would be like up and down. So it would be like progress, but then like two steps back, then progress and two steps back. Whereas now it's kind of like slow progress, but I'm kind of content with that. I'm kind of enjoying the journey more, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's me.
I love that, bro. I checked out your stuff. I love what you're doing. Anytime there's a brown content creator out there who's creating, podcasts or content, I think we need more representation out there. It's amazing to see more podcasts coming out, more content. I love
Thank
that.
you. Appreciate it.
And
And how about
and
you?
I
How are
would
you
say
doing?
same here, bro. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in my hustle phase, as you would say, just trying to get content, just like you. Trying to steady myself. I don't want to. I want it to be sustainable. This is something
Mhm.
that I want to do long term. So just trying to find the balance, trying to hustle, trying to create content, and yeah, just help people along the way. That's my main ethos.
Nice. So I guess for people that don't know you, what do you do? What's your name? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Lakshay. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I've always been training. I've always been into lifting since I was very young. But 5 years ago, I watched a documentary about the meat and dairy industry in Australia that made me go vegan. And yeah, for the last 5 years, I've been vegan, really into training, bodybuilding, and yeah, I would say if someone would ask me what I am, I'd say fitness. I'm into fitness, but I love dancing as well. The reason I got into training was so I can get better at dancing. But I would say, yeah, I am dancer slash vegan bodybuilder.
Nice. Um, so I guess for those people that don't know you, I obviously came across you on Instagram and I saw your transformation, a massive transformation in that sense as well. Could you talk us through that little bit, like how much you weighed before and then how much you weighed after, and like just the whole process of that?
Definitely, bro. So what happened is right before COVID, around 2019, I started to sort of, I think I just sort of lost myself as COVID happened. Gyms started closing down, and I was always into training. I was always, into gymming, the lifestyle. But as soon as gyms were closed, I sort of lost myself and I sort of started binge eating. And I was really into to sort of cope with COVID, everything that was happening around that time. I was really into smoking weed as well. And I fell down this rabbit hole of just all these bad habits, smoking weed and eating, binge eating every single day, no physical activity. And I went from, I would say, around 90 kilos to around 130,
Mm.
135 kilos, just in those few months of COVID, because I was eating, I would say, 5 to 10,000 calories a day, because, I was just so, I was high, I was just eating, and yeah, it sort of ballooned. And before I knew it, I was just completely different person, and I just couldn't recognize myself anymore. And I thought it was starting to affect me, my health, my relationships, and yeah, it got to a point where I knew that as soon as COVID started to ease down, I had to change. And I knew it was going to be a long journey. And I knew what I had to do, I knew how to do it. It was just mainly the discipline to action everything. So it took about 2020, from 2020 to 2020, it took about 2 to 3 years to sort of get shed off all of that weight that I gained in just a few months. That's how long it took. So yeah,
Nice. So I guess it took a few months, but then what I'm thinking is like, what was that turning point? Like, was there a moment where you kind of realized, okay, this is it, I have to change? Or was it like you kind of psyching yourself up to lose weight whilst you were gaining weight, and then there came a moment where you're like, cool, let's start. Like, how was that transition?
it was. I feel like it was a mixture of both. So I was psyching myself up, but at the same time, because I was seeing myself in the mirror every day, I didn't notice a
Mm.
difference. When you're gaining weight, you don't really see it unless you see videos of yourself or you see yourself in a photo. You don't really
Mhm.
see yourself gaining weight. And then I guess it took a point where I was taking a lot of progress photos, even though I wasn't gymming. I was taking a lot of photos as I was gaining weight, and just looking at them sort of made me want to psych myself up. And I just felt horrible. I felt like absolute crap the whole time. My
Mhm.
voice changed. My voice was changing. The way I looked facially, a lot of fat in my face, and
Mm.
I just could not recognize myself in a mirror. And I couldn't dance. I remember filming that's when TikTok was famous. I did a TikTok dance video with my friends, and I could not dance. I was so heavy. And as I was watching that over and over again, I knew that, I had to, I was only 22 around that time, so I knew I had to start then if I needed to get to where I wanted to be. So it
Nice.
was a mixture of both.
Um, what you said like reminds me of, I guess when I was probably similar age, 21, 22, I really wanted to dance. So prior to that, I was really fat and I really wanted to be able
Mm.
to dance. And I think I didn't dance just because of like feeling shy, being anxious, all of these things. So I made an effort to kind of lose weight. I remember that year I lost weight and then I started going dance classes and like, I was a lot more happy after that. So I guess prior to 2020, prior to like the weight gain, were you someone who was kind of confident in dancing? Were you kind of out there, and were you also skinny back then as well, or were you more kind of always kind of overweight?
My body has gone through so many different um, shapes throughout the years, bro. I was always skinny during school. I was always skinny. I was always dancing. I've been dancing since I was young. My dad was a dancer, so I was always
Nice.
somewhat lean, like a, but I could gain weight easily, but I was still
Hmm.
pretty skinny. So yeah, I was pretty lean, pretty skinny, not too overweight. Um, but it was the binge eating that really got to me because I knew that once I start eating, sometimes I just can't stop.
Mm.
So that's what really I gain weight really easily. So
Hmm.
eating like that over and over again, that's what sort of made my body change the way it did. But I was always lean, I was always skinny before that. So yeah, it was a big change for my body.
So it sounds like dance was like the real main driver, kind of your key why as to why you wanted to lose weight. Is that correct?
100% for
Hmm.
dances, yeah.
And do you think, had you not had that goal of dance, would you have had the same motivation to lose weight, or would you have said it would have been harder for yourself?
That's a good question. I feel like I still would want to lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
but dance sort of, when I was going through my journey, I knew that I didn't want to just lose all the weight, but I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to get more flexible. I wanted to get more athletic. I wanted to be able to do all these acrobatic tricks like flips,
Mm-hmm.
backflips, splits, all of that, all of those things. So
Mm-hmm.
dance, I feel like it really fired me up even more. I feel like I would have lost weight, but
Mm-hmm.
getting more flexible and really stretching and really, taking care of my body is for dance. And I feel like dance, because I was doing it to dance better, I took the long approach. It wasn't a fast, like a crash diet or anything. I knew that I needed to spend a few years at least to lose this weight slowly and steadily. So, yeah.
And I guess in that sense, how does dance make you feel? Like when you are dancing?
Dancing, it's my life, bro. If anyone asks me what I am before anything, I would say I am a dancer. And I love the feeling that I get when I'm dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I started lifting. I started getting into gym when I was 14 because of dance. So dance was always the main backbone of my fitness journey.
And what kind of dance do you do?
So my background is breakdance, hip hop and breakdance.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of power moves, a lot of acrobatic gymnastics. But I've been getting into a lot more, like Kuttu, South Indian,
Mm-hmm.
Bollywood, trying to be as versatile as I can.
Nice. Um, so you mentioned binging. Um, during those days you were binging, was there kind of, obviously you were stuck at home, but what I found personally from my kind of own experiences, like when I do binge, it's almost like I'm tired, I'm fed up, I'm frustrated, and it's almost like a coping mechanism. So
Mm.
I guess the underlying reason I used to binge a lot is because, like, I just couldn't understand the emotions, so I didn't want to sit with those emotions that were coming up for me. Did you ever feel kind of similar in that sense, or did you have a different reason?
That's spot on, bro. That's exactly why I was binging. It was a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
Add the weed addiction on top of that. So it
Hmm.
was a mixture of the dopamine high from weed, and then as soon as that
Hmm.
dopamine crashed, I needed food to get that
Hmm.
dopamine back up again. So I was addicted to dopamine, but from the worst kinds of things.
Hmm. And I guess coming out of the kind of the binging phase and losing weight, did you find yourself having to cope with new kind of found emotions, or was it a different kind of scenario for you?
One of the biggest changes that's happened in my transformation journey is just like you mentioned, finding new um, dopamine highs, finding new ways of getting that dopamine that you were getting from food, but
Hmm.
from more sustainable sources. And for me, that was gym. As soon as gym opened back up, I was I was getting that high from training and from dancing and from living a healthy lifestyle. So it's crazy how I was still getting the dopamine that I wanted, that I craved, but it was from more sustainable sources and more, it wasn't short-term dopamine highs. So I needed to, it
Mm.
was a big change for my body and it wasn't straight away. Like there was a period where I was still binging as soon as gyms opened, I was still binging here and there, but it was
Hmm.
just pushing through. And yeah, just finding new ways of getting that dopamine rather than food, rather than drugs, rather than all of that, the bad habits.
Mm. Um, and how long did that kind of transition take? I guess, like, where you were able to say, "Look, I'm going to stop binging now. It's done. No more."
I feel like it took at least, as soon as the gyms opened back up, I was still binging here and there. It took maybe around 6 months, I would say, for me to completely get into the routine of eating healthy. Um, Yeah, bro. It was mainly getting my body used to eating good food again, healthy food.
Mm.
And as soon as I got into a rhythm, and I say this to everyone, if you want to lose weight,
Hmm.
eating foods that you would have eaten otherwise. So the best thing to do is a diet shouldn't even feel like a diet. It should be foods that you enjoy. So for me, finding the foods that I actually enjoy, things like pasta, rice, things like bread, all of the things that I was eating before, but just eating a balanced version of it, counting calories and getting into that routine. As soon as I got into the routine, that's what propelled me. It felt like I was still full. I was still eating a lot of food, but enough. I wasn't overeating. I wasn't undereating. I was eating just enough. And I made sure when I first started my transformation to keep my calories as high as I could while I was still losing weight, and then slowly bring it down over 2 years.
Fine. So it sounds like a gradual, slow approach as opposed to kind of like forcing yourself and going extreme with dieting in that sense.
Exactly. And I'm against extreme diet in any sense, bro. Any sort of crash diets,
Yeah.
any diet that restricts you too much, you're going to eventually gain all that weight back. It's easy to lose weight, but the hardest thing is to maintain that weight once you've lost it. Just to maintain a body once you've lost that weight.
And in terms of kind of extreme dieting, have you ever done it yourself? Have you ever gone through that phase of extreme dieting, or has it been from more kind of watching other people and observing them?
Oh yeah, of course, bro. When I first started training, there wasn't that much information. I think this was back in 2012, 2013. There was a lot of misinformation online, things around ketogenic diets, low carb diets, and I tried everything. I tried liquid diets, and what I found was, yeah, I was just gaining all the way back. I was losing a lot of weight. I remember the first time I did the keto diet, I lost so much weight, but I also lost so much muscle. And as soon as I started eating carbs again, I just put everything back on. It was more sustainable.
I guess the evolution of like when you started in 2012 in terms of training, diet, to the way you are now, what's your mental health been like as well?
My mental health has been, I feel like it's better now than it's ever been. Obviously, when I first started training, I was young, teenager, and you sort of go through that phase. I started training, obviously for dance, but also because I wanted to look good. I was skinny, wanted to impress girls, the normal reasons why, like you would get into training. And as I was seeing progress, I felt good about myself, but then body dysmorphia, because I'm competing in bodybuilding soon. And I know in my mind, I've always wanted to compete, but body dysmorphia is a big thing. After a few years of training, it got to a point where no matter how much I've trained, I look at myself and I look skinny. I never look, other people would be like, oh, you look big, you have big muscles and things like that. They would compliment me. But whenever I looked at myself, it was just the skinny kid looking back. So I feel like working through that body dysmorphia, especially because the biggest problem, in my opinion, bro, with the fitness industry is seeing so many people on steroids in the fitness industry. That really messed with my mental health, because I would compare myself, because they would lie about being natural. I would compare myself to them every single day. I would always wonder, why don't I look like them? They're so young, 22, 23, but I don't look like them. So that was the biggest thing with my mental health, is comparing myself to people who were lying about using steroids. And yeah, that would beat me down. But as soon as I found out that these people are lying, that was like a rebirth for me. I was awakened, and my mental health was a lot better after that.
Nice. I'm glad you mentioned their body dysmorphia actually, because a lot of people I've met do go through it. It's very common amongst men as well. I've been through it as well, where I was a certain weight, I lost a lot of weight. A lot of people around me were saying I was skinny, but all I could see was like the fat self. So for me, what's helped me the most from getting through that is kind of self-acceptance and understanding why I had that perception of myself, where kind of my fear of being fat came from, essentially, and essentially delving deeper into those emotions that are around it. But essentially, in full, it was mainly acceptance for me that helped me. For you, kind of going through your battling your body dysmorphia, what's helped you the most?
What's helped me the most, I would say, is finding other natural bodybuilders online and seeing the progress that they've made as sustainable progress. For like, I've just accepted the fact that the body that I've wanted when I was younger, I'm not going to have that body until I'm 35, 36, and I've accepted that and I'm happy with that. So to get the body that I want, I'm just going to enjoy the journey, and that's really helped to with my body dysmorphia. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So I've learned to just really enjoy the journey, not have a goal physique in mind, but just be natural, be healthy, and just enjoy the journey. And I feel like I still have it, bro. Like I still have, obviously, I look at myself and I look at things that I need to work on. Like whenever I look at myself, I'm like, my shoulders are small, my arms are small, I need to work on my upper chest, things like that. I think it's just accepting that you're always gonna, be critical of yourself in that way, but also being proud. So being proud, but never satisfied is my motto.
Nice. It sounds like you really come to a point where you've kind of accepted where you are, accepted who you are, and kind of really embodying that principle of like enjoying the journey, if that makes sense. If you were to take a moment and like explain like how does it feel when you're enjoying the journey, when you're in the moment, when you're kind of enjoying the progress, versus when you're very much so focused on the end result and you're very much so like on that dopamine release, like you're on that high and you want that end result all the time. What's the difference like?
I feel like when I look at myself, I look at myself with two different lenses, and I think this has really helped me. So one lens is from a bodybuilding perspective, which is, as you mentioned, the result-driven lens, being like, I have this vision in my head, bodybuilding wise, I need to work on so many things around my body because I want to do well in my bodybuilding competition. And the bodybuilding lens is just critical. It's just, I need to work on this, I need to work on that, I need to lose weight here, there. But the second lens is from a general perspective, and I'm super proud. From a general sense, I'm very proud of where I've come. I'm proud of my body. I'm proud of how far I've come. So it's just, and that's the more sustainable lens of looking at myself. So two different lenses. One's the more competitive. I want to be the best that I can absolutely be. And the second one is I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm still really proud, but I'm also super competitive. So it's just balancing those two sides, making sure that one side doesn't overtake the other side.
And how do you balance both sides? Because I know when I'm critical, it's very easy for me to go into my head and overthink. So for me personally, like the things that I've found to kind of find a balance and kind of be in the moment is kind of breathing exercises. So like mindfulness, and I guess things like working out and dancing have helped me kind of step into my body more. So that's helped me. What's helped you?
That's great, man. I'm glad that you brought that up. Things like breathing, meditation. One thing that I feel like this is a little, and I encourage everyone to do this, but a little hack that I've done throughout my transformation journey is, it's like guided meditation, but it's like self-hypnosis / guided meditation. So I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's pretty much someone that guides you through like a full self meditation session. And that really helps me to ground myself. That really helps me to sort of just let go of everything else. So it's like meditation, but there's different ones. So there's self-hypnosis for reducing anxiety, self-hypnosis for calming yourself, self-hypnosis for sleeping. I had a lot of, whenever I had trouble sleeping, listening to that. And I felt like doing that and really taking care of one of the biggest things was sleep. Really focusing everything that I did around sleep. Because in my opinion, sleep was the most underrated thing that I was doing, most underlooked thing. So once I started putting all my focus on how can I get the most sleep, how can I train my body to really rest when it needs to rest, getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, that's when my body completely started to change.
And I guess it sounds straightforward. You go to bed early, you wake up a bit later, or make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. Was there anything that you did differently to help you manage your sleep?
There was a few things. So things like as soon as I wake up, and I got this from, I'm a big fan of Andrew Huberman. He is amazing, the kind of advice it gives out. But as soon as I wake up, getting the sunlight in the first 10 minutes of waking up really starts off your day. And even things like I used to be really reliant on caffeine
Mm-hmm.
and doing things like cycling caffeine. So only having caffeine on days where I feel like I really need it because a big, I was addicted to caffeine. Caffeine was, so I guess like going back to your previous question, when I first, instead of binging, what I got addicted to instead of that was caffeine. I was having a lot of pre-workout to sort of psych myself up. So that's something I needed to sort of come off of as well, which
Mm-hmm.
really helped my sleep. But in terms of sleep, I think the biggest thing is if I have trouble sleeping, is listening to doing little self hypnosis, self meditation before I sleep, guided meditations, and it's pretty much you listen to it in your ears, and there's a voice that sort of guides you through. I know there's a lot of apps for this, but it sort of guides you
Yeah.
through, and before you know it, you wake up in the morning, and that's really helped with my sleep.
Nice. And I guess in terms of sleep, and you mentioned anxiety as well, are these things that you've suffered from a lot in the past, or is it kind of phases of your life?
Phases of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety, I think, is a phase that I do go through every
Mm-hmm.
now and then, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes external substances like caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
like when I was doing drugs, that really made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But really grounding myself and changing my life around,
Mm-hmm.
it's gotten a lot better. And yeah, I feel like if I do feel a little anxious every now and then, listening to the self hypnosis, self meditation guides, it has been a game changer.
Nice. You mentioned your father and how he likes dancing as well. Um, is that kind of what inspired you when you were young? Like, was he someone who took you to dance a lot? Was he someone who kind of danced in front of you and showed what he could do? Like, what was that relationship like and in terms of dancing?
Yeah, so he was always dancing. And as soon as I was born, from a young age, he was someone that used to, teach me dancing, show me, his dancing. And then I have a younger sister as well. So when she was born, she was
Mm-hmm.
also, dancing from a young age. So yeah, I guess being, it started off with my dad, sort of both my parents pushing
Mm-hmm.
me and my sister to dance, go to dance classes, perform on stage, and then yeah, that's when the love sort of evolved. And now I'm glad that I went through that because I dance is all I know right now.
Um, one thing that's popped up in my head just now is, I guess, with your transition from like being overweight, being skinny, and where you are now as well. Um, what's your connection been with other people like during those different phases of your life? Has it been any different? Has it changed?
Yes, it's changed dramatically, and
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it surprised me how much it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, like the way people treat you is completely
Mm-hmm.
different. And I didn't realize this until I lost all this weight. I was, and the attention that you get, the way you have this instant respect with people
Mm-hmm.
and the confidence. When people say, having a good body, it, it sort of, it doesn't, other people like, especially in the dating world, having a good physique, having a healthy body, what it does, it makes you more confident in yourself, and that's the biggest plus, in my opinion. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, and also like that confidence, you may not know it, but you do become a lot more confident if you're proud of your body, if you're proud of your skin. So the biggest change, I would say, the biggest culture shock, this has been the biggest thing that I've had to get used to, is just how people treat you. Completely different. Even though I'm the same guy that I am now, back
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, the way people treated me, the
Mm-hmm.
way attention, the respect, it's completely different. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it was mind blowing, honestly, when I noticed it.
And I guess it's I guess it um it's true for both sides, but I was going to ask you, with the confidence, do you think it's because of your change in mentality and the way you view yourself that's massive, or was it just physically like how you look exteriorly?
Oh, honestly, it's how you. It's not. I wouldn't say it's extremely like based on how you look, but it's how
Mm-hmm.
you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at people who use substances like performance
Mm-hmm.
enhancing drugs to look the way they do, they are not that happy on the inside. And a lot of people have
Mm-hmm.
spoken about that. And me seeing that from a young age, I knew that my external body isn't going to dictate how I feel, but how I feel is
Mm-hmm.
going to dictate my external body. So it's 100% dependent on how you feel in your body
Mm-hmm.
and how confident you are in your own skin. But it does help having, a nice physique.
Of course, yeah. It sounds like kind of like the use of like performance enhancing drugs, all of these things played a massive role in like I guess your early stages as well, like the comparison, um, and just I guess in my head I'm thinking it can probably make you feel so little and like so unworthy and just so like what's the point and make you give up very easily, right? So for anyone listening in who's kind of going through, I guess, similar feelings and emotions where they are comparing themselves, where they are beating themselves down for how they look, and saying, they can never get to that stage, what advice would you give them?
I know this is going to be harsh advice,
Hmm.
but this has helped me. But the harshest advice is whatever physique you have in mind, aim for realistically as a natural without using any performance enhancing drugs. You
Yeah.
could get to maybe 40, 50% of that physique. So
Mm.
lower your standards. That would be my advice. Because
Yeah.
the industry is filled with people using steroids to look the way they do. So I would say lower your standards and be happy with how far you've come. Be happy with the journey.
Mm. And if I was to just go back to that again,
Mm.
how would you, I guess, coach or teach people to be happy with their journey in terms of training? What little things could they do on a daily basis that would help propel them forward in that journey?
One thing that I strongly encourage people to do, especially people that I'm coaching, is document your journey. So documenting everything that you do and sorry,
Yeah.
documenting everything that you do, taking lots of photos. And because what happens is you get to a point where you feel like because you're seeing yourself in the mirror every day, you
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like you're making progress. But it's not until you look back at
Mm-hmm.
photos, at videos of your progress, that's when you realize, damn, you have actually come so far. That's what I did. I documented, I vlogged my entire journey. And even now, when I look back at videos, I'm proud of myself from back then. If I would say, be happy with your journey. And for you to be happy with your journey, you need to know how far you've come in your journey. So document
Mm-hmm.
your journey, create content, vlog, journal, take photos, videos, medium you want to use, but just document your journey so in the future you can look back and be extremely proud of yourself.
Nice. Yeah. I can see how that helps you as well to see and I guess visually see it as well, like the
Mm,
difference you're making, as opposed to like it's very easy to complain about not growing or not changing, especially the little changes that you might be making, you might not see, and so you can easily go down the route of comparing yourself to other people unless you're really focused on observing the little changes that you're making and being proud of it.
exactly, bro. And especially as South Asians, we
Yeah.
tend to have a lot of, just generally, we hold a lot of fat in our lower back. And this is not a part of your body you see in the mirror when you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So by documenting your journey, taking videos, putting your
Mm-hmm.
phone there, filming your entire body, turning around, when you're losing weight in your lower back, you don't see
Mm-hmm.
that at all. So a lot of people become discouraged, but
Yeah.
you're still progressing. It's just you can't. It's not always visible. That's why document, and yeah, that'll show you how far you've come.
Nice. Um, how have your parents kind of reacted to your kind of transformation, and what do they think of where you are now?
Obviously, bro, I feel like it's so common, but my mum loves me when I was, bigger.
Yes.
She, she's like, you're so skinny now. Like she, yeah, I mean, as a mum, my parents, they love me, no matter what. But I would say if my mum had to choose, she would choose the me from 2 years ago. But obviously, that was the worst part of my life. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a very South Asian thing. I don't know what it is. It's just so many times.
that
Um,
clean shaven, big boy.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And in terms of like the veganism as well, like you are vegan now as well. What's that mean like as well in terms of health? Is your family also like vegetarian or vegan, or is it just you?
It's just me. So my family, they still eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
So I've moved out. I live alone. I live by myself. My family's in Adelaide.
Hmm.
But even when I was living with them, even before I went vegan, I was cooking all my own food. So
Hmm.
transitioning to a vegan diet, it was pretty easy because I was always cooking my own food anyway, which my
Hmm.
mum absolutely hated. But I had to do that because I was in that bodybuilding grind. So
Yeah.
they've accepted it because I was always cooking my food. There wasn't
Hmm.
any extra pressure on them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like they're completely fine with it. I'm trying to get them to go vegetarian at
Yeah.
least. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. And I guess you've got a lot of muscle on yourself, and you're on a vegan diet. And
thank you, bro.
the myth
Appreciate
is
that.
that's
Yeah.
all good. The myth is like you can't build muscle on a vegan diet. Would you? How would you dispel that myth?
I love when people say that, and no one said that to me in person yet, but it's always in comments, it's always in on social media, and honestly, science has disproven that protein is protein, and I wouldn't say that being vegan you're gonna build more muscle, you're gonna build less muscle. It's the same. It's just that
Mm.
instead of one source of protein, you're you're getting your protein from plant sources. So if you look at it from a sense that you're getting your protein the same way the meat that you eat gets its protein
Mm-hmm.
from plants. But that's what I would say.
And what's your? You've obviously lost weight, which has helped your health. But have you noticed any changes from going into a vegan diet compared to when you were eating meat?
In terms of energy, in terms of overall health,
Um,
I feel
yeah, just energy, health in general. Yeah.
I would for sure. I feel so much better. I feel like I have so much more energy now. When I was
Hmm.
eating meat, I honestly wasn't I was eating chicken, broccoli, rice, and I wasn't the biggest fan of of that life. But when I went vegan, it sort of introduced me to a whole different world of cooking, of meals,
Hmm.
and I feel like I one the biggest thing, and this really helped me with my transition, my transformation. Obviously, I gained all that weight as a vegan, but the biggest benefit of going vegan is whole foods plant-based meals are naturally high in, they're low in calories and high in volume, which means
Hmm.
that you can eat a lot of volume and they're really low in calories.
Hmm.
So I was always full. Like I could eat a lot of food and it was so rich in fiber, so rich in volume, but low in calories. So in that sense, it was easier for me to lose weight because I could eat so much more food while being in a caloric deficit.
Okay, got you. Fine. Um, I'm just looking at time. So I guess one of the questions I normally ask and kind of getting into the habit of asking is, what does being a South Asian man mean to you?
Being a South Asian man, I I do want to see. It's amazing that we are being represented more out there, bro. But it's still there's such a long way to go. As a South
Hmm.
Asian man, I want to see more of my people being represented, especially in the fitness industry. When you look at the fitness industry, when you look at things like Gymshark, Alpha Elite, any fitness brand, it's so rare to find South Asian men representing those
Hmm.
brands or representing in the fitness industry. So growing up, it's always been like that, and I want that to change. I want more brown girls and guys to get into fitness. I want to see more representation. But I would say as a South Asian male, we've come a long way, but I would say I want to see more representation.
Nice. And I guess you've talked about what you want from being a South Asian man. Um, how would you describe how you feel as a South Asian man? Do you have kind of, yeah, any close associations or feelings growing up, um, whilst you were being defined as a South Asian man?
Yeah, so I was born in Sydney, but I was brought up in Adelaide, so it's a different city, about 2, 3 hours flight from Sydney. And I grew up in a majority non-South Asian area. So the city that I grew up in, barely any South Asians. But one thing that my parents did a really good job of is keeping me close to my culture. So I loved, South Indian music. I loved just Indian music in general, South Asian music, movies, big fan growing up. But I didn't really find anyone else with the same kinds of passions as I did because I was the only brown kid in my whole school. And that was always within me that I had this love for, just South Asian arts, South Asian movies, music. And when I moved to Sydney, I met a lot more people with the same kinds of passions, a lot more South Asians in Sydney. And I feel much more connected. Even though I was brought up in Australia, I would say that I love, like, inside and outside, I am as brown as it gets. Like I embrace it. I embrace the yeah, the brownness a lot.
Nice. Um, cool. It sounds like your journey has been very positive, in the sense that you've gone from a stage of, I guess, criticizing yourself, being critical of yourself, to really, really get to a point where you fully accept yourself. And from there, you've kind of gone to a stage where you kind of start to be proud of your journey, embracing the journey, whilst also setting realistic goals. Um, and I guess when you're setting realistic goals, sometimes it feels small. It feels like, you should be aiming higher, especially on social media, where everyone seems to be, like, excelling in their goals. But actually, by setting those small goals, it sounds like you've, got to a stage where you are actually making big progress. You've made big changes and you've got big results, but you've only got there from making the small changes on, day out, on a daily basis.
That's the spot on, bro. Yeah. Growing
Nice.
up, you see, actors or celebrities go through, 3 month transformations, 6 month transformations. And growing up with that mindset in my head, it really messed with me. It's so unrealistic. So when I moved from that to more of if I want to transform my body, looking at it as a multi-year thing, looking as a 5, 10 year progress rather than a 6 month or you know, 7 month transformation. So it's all about setting more realistic timeframes for your body goals.
Okay. And I guess one last question is, um, amongst all of this, and it sounds like everything is going well. What do you find that you struggle with the most at the moment?
Ooh, that is a good one, bro. What do I struggle with most at the moment? I feel like because I am in that content hustle phase,
Mm.
the biggest thing would be just trying to grow myself, trying to reach more people, trying to get content out there. Um, yeah, trying to really get myself out there and really push myself because I'm at that point where if I don't put in the work myself, it's nothing's gonna happen. So really trying to push myself to grow as a person and as a brand. That's been my biggest struggle, but also it's been the biggest learning experience, and I've learned so much along the way.
Nice. Well, I guess your content is growing because I've seen it from the UK, so that's good.
Thank you. I appreciate that, bro.
um, but I guess in my head, I was thinking I've been there as well, trying to grow like the content and the brand. And I guess the most difficult thing in my head is like the comparison game again, right? Because you can fall into the trap of comparing yourself to other people who might be going to similar journeys or similar, giving out similar advice. How do you, again, have you come across that? And again, how are you managing that aspect?
Yeah, I would be a bit different in that sense. What I encourage people to do is, I don't think comparing is necessarily a bad thing, but I encourage people to compare themselves to another version of themselves who does everything that they should be doing. Things like sleeping on time, taking, all the supplements they need to, creating content on time, and doing all these little tasks. Comparing yourself to another version of you who's doing everything that you need to be doing, I feel like that sets a more realistic expectation in your head. Rather than comparing yourself to someone else, comparing yourself to another imaginary person that's just like you, who is doing all these little things. And that's helped me a lot in my journey. Even little things like, oh, maybe I should skip the gym today. But then I would think, no, but that other person wouldn't skip the gym today, so I'm going to go. Or what's going to happen if I have a cheat meal today, but the other person wouldn't have a cheat meal? So just little things like that. It's going to bed on time, sleeping properly. I feel like that's been the biggest bonus, is comparing myself not to other people, but to the best version of myself. And that's really helped me in my journey.
Nice, I like that. So it's a form of future visualization in that sense, where you're visualizing yourself in the future, where you want to be, what your goals is, your ideal self, and then once you've got that picture, it's on a daily basis. If you do feel down or you feel like you're not sure about something, you step into that future version and then ask yourself, okay, what would that person do in this scenario, and then doing that one thing you need to do.
Exactly. So it's like, it's not necessarily you versus you, but it's you versus the best version of yourself. That's your competition. Because if your competition is yourself, I feel like you're not going to grow. But if your competition is better than you, that's going to push you to grow.
Yes, yeah. So I guess, yeah, in my head I'm thinking, although it's like competition because you're competing, but equally it doesn't feel, like sometimes when you're competing with other people, it feels really bad and you feel like you're putting yourself down. But actually, this feels more like you have a purpose, you have clarity with who you want to be, and it's almost like empowering. It's almost like that future version of yourself is uplifting you to be better and grow faster.
Exactly. That's it. And I always encourage this because sometimes you need it. You need that extra push. Because even little things like, what if I don't take creatine today? What if I miss a few days of creatine? Someone else, the other version of yourself, they're not going to skip that day. All these little things adds up over time. So I think just having that mindset, it's pushed me. It's helped me massively.
Nice. What we normally do to finish off is like a checkout round. So, any last thoughts or things that you want to say, and then we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
I'll start. I guess, yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's good to get to know you more, and yeah, seeing your journey has been inspiring, and hearing about your journey, it sounds normally you hear a lot of people going through the gym phase and it's a lot of like hustle, you got to get through this, but yours sounds very balanced, and actually you have a very calm nature to how you've kind of accomplished your journey and where you are now and how far you've got. So yeah, it's been good hearing your journey, and I'm being inspired by your kind of small goals and being proud of the journey as well, like embracing that. So that's been good to hear. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. That honestly means a lot, bro. That's been the biggest motivation for me, seeing other people, even though in my head, I don't think I'm all that, just getting people saying things like, I'm inspired by your journey. That means so much. And that's been my motivation now. Like that inspires me to do better and to push myself. So I really appreciate that, bro. Thank you for saying that. And I'd love to know how's your journey going, bro? Like how are you finding everything?
Yeah, my journey. Yeah, I would say at this stage, so like I've always been up and down, and like I've lost weight, gained weight, so similar to you in that sense. And I think the last few months, the last probably 6 months, I've been kind of doing a lot of work on myself around like the emotional side of things, and like trying to learn why I tend to yo-yo a lot with diet. And I guess for me, a massive aspect was, so I'm part of a kind of men's group that I do, or partake in. And in one of the groups, we were talking about this, everyone was talking about this, and body dysmorphia was a big thing. And one of the key things that popped up for me was like accepting, kind of embracing the fat side of myself. Because I've always been someone who's tried to lose weight and I've lost weight, succeeded, I've learned a lot of health stuff along the way. But equally, it's almost like I then sabotage myself, whether it be binging or other aspects. So what I found is there was that one session in particular where I was able to kind of fully accept myself with my journey and just being fat and all of those things. And since then, it's been like a massive weight off my shoulders, a massive relief, because since then I've just been able to kind of be successful with kind of losing weight. So since then I've been going to the gym, eating more healthy, and like you said, like learning to be proud of the journey. That's something I always struggle with. So one thing I've kind of forcing myself to do is kind of every day, every couple of hours during the day, if I do feel like I'm going into my head or being critical, I try and focus on things I'm grateful for and kind of celebrate the small wins. So I found that has helped me a lot in terms of just kind of embracing my body, embracing my wins, and embracing my journey as well. So I would say, like I was saying, I guess at the start of the session, is like I feel at this stage I'm in a very good place, and I'm happy with the progress I'm making, happy with the small steps I'm making. And I guess for me now, it's what I tend to do is become impatient and compare myself, or like try and rush the progress. But then when I'm not making progress, take two steps back, like I was saying. So at this stage, I'm learning to just kind of take a step back and take each day as it comes, and kind of, like you said, kind of focusing on my future version of myself, asking him what he'd do in this scenario, and then taking steps forward towards that goal.
That's amazing to hear, bro. It feels like you're on the right journey and you have the right mindset. And I love hearing that. And of course, if there's anything you need at all, any help, I'm always here, bro. Just shoot me a message. I'd be happy to help out with anything.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. I guess, yeah. Is there any details that you want to share in terms of how people can contact you?
So I have a YouTube channel that I post on consistently. So I do full day of eating, I do training videos. I try to be as transparent, because the biggest question I get is, what do you eat as a vegan bodybuilder? That's the biggest question. So I thought it'd just be easier to make consistent videos. So you can check that out, which is just my name, Lakshay Naidu. If you just type in my name, all my videos will show up. And on Instagram as well, the same, Lakshay Naidu. But yeah, mainly if you need any sort of advice around vegan bodybuilding, nutrition, whatever, it's my
Sweet. Thank you for joining, and hopefully, if you ever want to jump on again with some other people, let me know, and we'll have you on again.
I'd love to jump on, man. I had so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you so much for all the kind words. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I had a lot of fun.